sound here.
Testing.
And this is the wireless microphone RX, correct?
Sure.
Sound here.
Sound from you? Okay. I'll be over here. Is it transmitting? I don't know. I don't know. Is it working? Whoa, that's a lot of delay.
Yeah. So I'm gonna do that here in a second. Okay, it says
That's a lot of delay. Oh yeah, that's a lot of delay. Yeah.
the link does take me to it. It just says it's private at the moment.
Uh-huh.
So I'm gonna post this in Discord.
Archer. No. Okay. Hello. Oh, that's way too low. Okay. Nah. Okay. Yeah. That's probably that's in the green. That's perfect.
So now all we have to do is figure out the delay here.
Yeah. What causes the delay?
Sometimes it's just whatever things have different depending if they're wireless or wired in. Some of the mixing system.
Does the delay matter much in the grand scheme of things?
It'll be very out of sync with what they're seeing and what they're hearing. It'll be like I'm talking the video is playing and the sound is hitting that much later. Like
Okay.
playing
I didn't know. I didn't know if it was like they're both delayed.
No. It's like the video is exactly as you're walking back and forth and the sound is a few seconds behind.
Because what I saw earlier was, yeah, it is delayed.
Because this one's muted right now.
But like, watch.
Oh, okay. Like the actual stream itself is delayed.
Yeah. See, watch.
So that's what I need to check is if.
See, watch, and then it'll just show me in a second. At least that's what I was seeing. Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're good.
Yeah. That's why I was confused. Put these up. Yes, sir. I think I can with the sink. Yes, sir. Which one you want? Give me that. I think I can with the sink. Yes, sir. Which one you want? Give me that.
What kind of air filter is that?
It's called Blue. And it's super cool because it automatically turns on when it detects particles.
Yeah, that's nice.
It's very nice. Especially because I know for me, I either leave it on, like I leave my other one on all the time or not. And I forget to turn it on.
Yep.
And
Need a sensor.
correct. I realize that like I overlook small details like that all the time where I'm like, oh yeah, that hasn't been on for days.
Right.
We good?
Oh.
What kind?
Anything that can give me whatever's coming.
You okay with Jern?
I feel like we should have just went over this.
There you go.
Does it connect straight to your...
Yeah. That's fine. Hang on. Oh, it should, hang on.
Hope that stays.
Ah. Is it working, Jeff? Okay. Hang on. Hang on. Should be back now.
If I could get some type of audio from either mic, somebody could just...
You good? Huh? Everything good? Jeff, can you hear me?
You what? Oh, test.
1,
Test,
2, 3,
test,
4,
test.
7, 8, 10.
We're good?
Let me tell the
Cool.
story of my childhood youth. Once I was a young warthog.
Are you from Austin?
From Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where about?
Kind of all over. Born in Houston, and then my family lives in the outskirts of Austin.
Okay.
Llano, if you know where Llano is.
I don't.
Near Marble Falls, Fredericksburg, all those crazy ones.
Got it. Okay.
What about y'all? Y'all from Austin?
No.
Far from
Yeah,
it.
he's from Philly. I'm from North Carolina.
Oh.
Yeah.
North Carolina. Man, somebody said they were visiting North Carolina. Oh, one of the persons is coming. She's another chiropractor. She's
Nice.
vacationing in North Carolina next week.
Yeah, the coast of North Carolina is a pretty hot tourist location.
Yeah, I was in North Carolina last year. Visited, and then went to Virginia Beach. Yeah, it was a nice time. I laughed because the person I went with, they were like, but the trees are so big, and so.
Both mics coming through loud and clear.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. She just kept saying.
Oh, are we streaming right now?
No. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. Per usual, I am not supposed to be in this seat tonight. Dr. Sira was supposed to be here, but I'm filling in. She's sick. She's a little under the weather. I know I'm second best, and I also know that I have a Y chromosome. So, thank you. But let me introduce our speaker, which is Leslie Jackson. You're a functional nutritionist, and you are local to Austin.
Yes.
But you serve people all over the nation, right?
I do. Yeah, actually internationally as well.
Okay, well, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about like what you do, what you specialize in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And all of that.
Yeah, of course. So I have fully dedicated my private practice to women. I'm a functional nutritionist and integrative health practitioner. And what I have seen the biggest need for and what really gave me my life back is understanding inflammation and the root causes of hormone imbalances, weight gain, and really mental health. Those were all of my challenges. And once I found a source of answers and clarity that felt really full of integrity and clarity and really just like empowerment through functional nutrition, I couldn't stop. I couldn't stop learning about it. And once I experienced the reliefs, I became really passionate about helping other women do the same. So
yeah. I mean, how long have you been doing it for?
So 2020 was when I started coaching women.
So about a half a decade now.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah.
What would be like, I know that you said that you helped yourself, right? And then what made you want to start helping others with it? Or like branch out?
Yeah. So, I would say when I was going through my challenges, it was really like survival mode. I was really just trying to get through my challenges. And my challenges were pretty severe acne, lots of bloating, very disruptive and somewhat crippling anxiety and depression, chronic fatigue, and all symptoms that were extremely disruptive to my quality of life. And I went through them right at kind of like the peak of my corporate career. So before I was a functional nutritionist, I was a vice president of enterprise sales and technology. And I was really excelling in that career, but at one point it came to the halt of my career is going really well, but I'm dying inside a little bit. And I really intuitively knew this is not sustainable. I was looking at, my people that were in roles above mine, and I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to sustain this way for another 10, 15, 20 years. And so that really drove me to have to address myself, the lifestyle that I was living and the way that I was taking care of my body. And I really did reach at one point a stopping point. Like my health really checked me at one point where it was not possible for me to keep running at the same caliber and velocity of work that I was doing. And my anxiousness and my nervous system really shut me down at one point. And so that stopped me before I had the opportunity to consciously do it. And I really wanted my life back. I really wanted my energy, my mental clarity. I wanted to be able to enjoy social settings. I wanted to be able to be present in my body. And that I really lost that for a couple years. And I will say that as challenging as that chapter of my life was, I'm so grateful for it because I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I really felt like people that had anxiety or depression were just being dramatic. I didn't understand it until I experienced it for myself. And it made me a more empathetic person, and it made me really understand that I'm not invisible. Like, my health is like a real living, breathing thing that I have to take care of. And so after I got through that survival chapter of my life, I was like, wow, I survived this. Like, I'm living on the other side of this really challenging thing. And then I would see my friends and my family experiencing migraines and acne and infertility and bloating and severe digestive issues. And I had overcome that. And I was like, these things you don't have to settle for. And so just my experience of being able to push through and overcome was where my passion for helping other women do the same thing really was birthed from, because I was living proof that it was possible to get to the other side of it.
I bet. I mean, like, because you were talking about how you felt like you were invincible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until something happened. And then all of a sudden you're like,
yeah.
Some of these things you need to address before they happen. I'm guessing that's kind of what you started thinking about.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have some empathy towards other people who are, like, afflicted with these other things.
Exactly.
Is there anything, like, while you were going through the process that, like, one thing that you remember changing and it had at least a drastic enough effect where you're like, oh, I'm gaining traction?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I would say the focus topic of nutrition and its impact on the body that fascinated me the most was how your blood sugar regulation impacts your mental clarity, your energy, your nervous system. And once I stopped eating dessert for breakfast, and
Wait.
yeah, dessert for breakfast.
What kind of dessert are we talking about?
Really, the most common standard American breakfasts that we have, which are bagels, pancakes, like
Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch breakfast. Yeah, like all of these things that really dysregulated my blood sugar. Really dysregulated my nervous system. And I really started to notice that once I started to tap into more savory style breakfasts and protein focused breakfasts, that I didn't get anxious as much throughout the day. I didn't have as many afternoon crashes. I felt just more physically and mentally stable.
Yeah.
Just by starting my day that way. And that is definitely one of the maybe like focus areas that I was like, okay, wow, like this does actually have a big impact on how I feel.
You're like, oh no, I feel better.
I know.
Darn
Literally, some of my clients that I work with, we usually are able to pretty quickly pinpoint what is causing the main sources of inflammation. And sometimes it is the things that they thought they could never live without.
Yeah.
And then they remove the thing that's causing so much inflammation, and they're like, damn it, it was that thing.
Correct. Yeah. And you're like, oh, no.
Almost disappointed that it worked because they felt so much relief after getting rid of the thing that wasn't agreeing with them.
Well, my question is like, so if like people even like, sometimes people don't notice that they have these problems. And then like, so you're talking about how you had to almost like seek this out, be like, oh, I have to do some self-testing.
Yes.
What's a good way that you can maybe think that you have some extra inflammation, or maybe that you need to make some of these changes, even when you may think you're invincible?
Yeah. Well, it's hard because today we have so much normalized a lot of the flare signals that our body is trying so hard to communicate with us through, such as the bloating and the acne and the fatigue and the low mood.
So me not being a woman,
yes.
How are those normalized?
How are those normalized? Well, I think that we have found just about every way to cover up our symptoms rather than figuring out why they're happening with makeup or corsets or caffeine. Like caffeine is it'll cover up a lot.
Really?
Oh my goodness, yeah. Yeah, it'll cover up a lot. There's a lot of concealer and caffeine and, the high-waisted that'll cover up a lot.
I just use caffeine to get the shakes. I mean, I don't know. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of things that we do and consume on a daily basis that cover up our symptoms. And then eventually they start to compound. And that's when they start escalating into disease in the body. And we start, experiencing PCOS and fibromyalgia, those types of symptoms that, diseases that we saw coming through symptoms usually years in advance. But we cover them up for so long that they then eventually escalate into things that are a bit more aggressive to handle.
And then I guess once it gets to that point, people almost feel hopeless.
Yes, I would say so, but I also think that our medical system today has convinced a lot of people that they are not capable of reversing the damage. The belief that the body knows how to heal when you give it the raw materials and the support that it needs to heal itself is not traditional thought. Here.
And I'm just gonna assume here, but like sometimes when you get somebody who signs up for your services, is almost one of the first things that you have to do, because I know I have to do this, is like give them hope again.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah. So do you have any like anecdotes or anything that comes to mind?
Yeah. I mean, one of my taglines, if you're not familiar with my brand, is, babe, you deserve to feel damn good in your body. And I think that we've gotten to a point where we've really normalized settling for feeling like shit all the time. And, there's a lot of things that women are held back from in their life that is due to an under-supported health situation. I've worked with clients that they withhold from doing a photo shoot because they don't want to be seen in front of the camera. And that photo shoot would boost their brand. It would boost and expand their business.
Those compounding effects.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think one of my first stops when I meet with my clients is just reminding them, or even sometimes telling them for the first time that they've ever heard, that you deserve to feel damn good in your body in front of the camera. Like, you deserve to go out into social settings and to feel grounded and enjoy your experience. Yeah. I just very deeply believe that is what women deserve. That's what men deserve too. And you know what I will say is that I'm actually glad that you're here. And I'm glad that you're having this conversation with us, because I really think that the world would be a better place if more men had better exposure to women's health information.
I mean, I've told you earlier that I'm clueless in the nutritional aspect, or I think I am. I wouldn't even know where to begin when it comes to the nuances and the nebulous factor that is women's hormones. So I'm happy that you're here to explain a lot of that to us. And like, also what I want to let you know is that, like, if thank you for laughing at me. But so if y'all have any questions, or if y'all want to, chime in for here's or hoorays, then please feel free.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm gonna move on.
For sure. Let's do it.
Okay. Did you start out knowing that you would want to help other women struggling with hormone imbalances?
No. What I might have mentioned earlier is that the chapter of my life that birthed my passion for figuring out how to create health, I was in full survival mode. Complete survival mode. I really didn't know if I was going to make it out on the other side of it. But once I made it out on the other side, and I discovered that there is so many supportive and revolutionary health creating modalities, I wanted to stand on the top of every building and shout it from the rooftops that, like, listen, ladies, like, we have so much power over our experience in our body. Like, we really do. And we hand it off and unconsciously in a lot of ways because of a lot of programming. That's just very standard in this country. And I would say, after I was able to prove to myself that I was capable of healing, I really wanted other women to experience it. So I did not know that this is what I would do, but once I discovered the power of this work, I was on a committed lifelong mission to help other women do it too.
Which building would you choose?
Well, at the time I was living in New York City, so probably Empire State Building.
All right, perfect. Yeah, that's a long way up.
Yeah.
So just to get a general overview, like how would you define, in your own terms, functional nutrition?
Yeah. So, in a one sentence, I would say it is the science of creating health.
Okay.
And I've actually posted that on a Threads one time. Was talking about our power to create health, and I had gotten comments on it from a couple people that were like, "What are you talking about? You don't create health. You get the genes that you get, and that's just like what you get." And it really breaks my heart that is a lot what a lot of people believe, is that we are just destined to our genetics. But thanks to a science that was birthed in the 90s and is really starting to gain traction, called nutrigenomics, we are really starting to get the scientific proof to kind of hush and turn down the volume of some of the naysayers of how powerful nutrition is.
Okay.
And in the 90s is when nutrigenomics really started to be studied, which is the science of how nutrition impacts our genetic expression. And the reason why nutrigenomics was born is because in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s is really when we started to introduce genetically modified food practices, pesticides, less small farming, big mass farming, artificial sweeteners, a lot of the things that we now know cause dysfunction in the body. And we saw in a matter of 30 to 40 years a 600% increase in type 2 diabetes, a 300% increase in obesity, skyrocket of mental health issues and heart disease. And we know, like science knows, that our genes only change and evolve every thousands and thousands of years, so like a 0.0% something. And so we knew that our genes weren't changing, but the way that they were expressing and activating or deactivating was changing drastically over the period of 30 to 50 years. And what changed over that time frame most drastically was how we produce our food.
Okay.
And what foods we're consuming.
What are some of the ways that, like, maybe nutrition does affect the expression of genetic factors? Like,
well, if we are constantly consuming foods that activate our immune system and that our immune system sees as inflammatory and or a threat to our body, it's going to stay in that state of fight or flight via our nervous system. It's going to constantly be revving our immune system and our immune cells to be fighting always. And
that affects recovery and many factors.
It taxes the system, which is why there's such an uptick in autoimmune diseases today, especially in women, primarily in women. Because we're consuming and or in our environment are exposed to so many things that are triggering threats within our internal system. And that eventually, if we are stuck in that war internally for so long, it wears down the body, wears down the immune system, and we become more susceptible to all kinds of dysfunctions.
What are, can you give me a few examples of some of the things that we may ingest that affects our fight or flight system or anything like that?
Absolutely. Mass amounts of sugar.
Okay.
we consume hundreds, I would say close to, I think the actual percentage is close to 275%, if I'm remembering correctly, of increase in the amount of sugar consumed in the amount of 100 years, like 275% in comparison to 100 years ago. We didn't have access to the amount of sugar that we have access to today, and it freaks out our blood sugar, it freaks out our nervous system. Our digestive system really wasn't built to metabolize the amount of sugar that we consume today. And really poor quality animal meats.
Okay.
We are what we eat eats. And also what happened...
There's tears there.
Yeah, there is tears there. Also what happened in the 50s, 60s, 70s is we started to change the way that we raised our farm animals. We discovered that they can survive off of grains rather than on grass fields and pastures where they had lots of sunshine and space. So our animals are consuming an inflammatory diet, and then they're getting treated with antibiotics. Their immune systems are shot. Their digestive tract and their microbiome dysfunctions is passed down in their meats, and that's very inflammatory for us to consume. But I think it's important for me to note that a healthy animal that was fed its natural diet, which is usually a pasture, just straight 100% grass-fed, that can be a really healthy animal. They have lean meat, very rich in omega fats, higher in protein, leaner. They're so rich in protein and so rich in nutrients, but it all depends on the life and the diet that animal lived. So I would say poor quality meats, sugar, pesticides, and anything that keeps a food shelf stable for a longer period of time. So gums, preservatives, because gums and preservatives, they are put into this food to prevent it from decomposing on the shelf. So when we ingest it and it's prevented from decomposing on the shelf, it's also going to be prevented from decomposing in our digestive tract. So it causes us a lot of flare, and it causes leaky gut. And leaky gut is exactly what it sounds like. It's literally tears in our intestinal wall.
Yeah.
And our immune system lives right along the lining of our intestinal wall. So it's constantly getting flared and exposed to things that historically didn't have exposure to, because we weren't eating preservatives and pesticides like this until the 50s and 60s.
Okay. I'm gonna try and segue this, but
Yeah,
so
please.
we're talking about the inflammation, leaky gut, and everything.
Yeah.
How does functional nutrition affect hormones?
So I would say functional nutrition, it is our hormones, because our nutrition, our sunlight exposure, our hydration, our sleep, our environment, our relationships, our emotional stability, it is what fuels our cells, and our cells is what fuels our hormones.
Okay.
So,
what's an example of a specific hormone that maybe we can start to address via functional nutrition?
Yeah. So I would say in women, the sex hormone that is the most depleted and challenged in today's environment, and with our current diets, our standard diet, is progesterone. And progesterone is female, well, men have it too, but it doesn't fluctuate like it does in women. And a lot of women experience miscarriages because of lack of progesterone production.
Okay.
And it suffers a lot when a woman is in a chronic state of stress.
Okay.
So ways to promote progesterone would be to eat a diet that does not cause stress to the body. a diet that is more protein and produce rich, full of antioxidants, because the precursors to progesterone and estrogen and testosterone and DHEA are all micronutrients, which come from our food. And also our stress hormones like our cortisol and our adrenaline, they have a profound impact on how our female hormones balance themselves, because the female body is very sensitive to its access to resources, is very sensitive to whether or not it is in a safe environment, because every single month our cells, many times every second, are analyzing our internal environment and our external environment for safety. And if it chronically feels unsafe, if it chronically feels inflamed and under-resourced, it will revert to survival mode versus thrive and procreate mode. So I don't know if I'm going too deep in on this one.
No, it's great. No, I was about to ask more. Like,
how does that make sense to you all? Do you guys have any questions about the balance of progesterone, estrogen, or any of the sort? Yes?
Do you know about DHEA? Like, if cortisol is high, does it naturally dip, or is there something else that affects DHEA?
Yeah, DHEA is pretty sensitive too. Testosterone and estrogen, I believe, are the least sensitive to the stress and are the least impacted. But what I would also say is one of the most common things that I see in labs today is not always that there's too much estrogen, because I find just in conversation that having estrogen dominance is really becoming more common knowledge, but understanding that having balanced estrogen is dependent upon having adequate progesterone. It's the ratio that we're looking for rather than just having equal. And so estrogen dominance really primarily comes from just simply not having enough progesterone to balance it out. Progesterone truly does thrive in our luteal phase, which is the second half, and estrogen thrives in our follicular phase. And keeping those balanced has everything to do with balancing your blood sugar, balancing your nervous system, emotionally, and really emotionally feeling safe in your friendships and your relationships and your work environment, your day-to-day. Those things really have a profound impact on that, the opportunity for those to produce in a balanced way.
so if we can get into the weeds a little bit.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, like, if you're noticing an imbalance or an estrogen dominance because of lack of progesterone, or maybe increased inflammation, like, is there any strategies that you can do to notice and then address? Like, do you have any specifics that you sometimes, on a global level? Of course, everybody's going to be nuanced, but
Yeah, so I would say a couple signals that your body will send you if you're experiencing high, like, excess estrogen is hairs around the chin area, acne around the chin area, kind of pounding headaches, not like migraine headaches, more so like pounding headaches. Bloating can be a root cause of excess estrogen. Irritability, rage, anger types of feelings can be due to excess estrogen. I would say, and also low mood. So if you notice that you're chronically throughout your cycle, just not waking up feeling, or rather should I say, waking up and feeling overwhelmed. Like you cannot fathom conquering your day. Those can all be symptoms of excess estrogen, and excess estrogen can be due to your diet and nervous system, but where I also see disruptors in estrogen in women is our cosmetic products. There's a lot of xenoestrogens that mimic how your body notices estrogen internally, and it throws off your body's ability to understand, is this synthetic estrogen or is this real estrogen?
Well, not to like throw anybody under the bus, but any products specifically? I don't know.
I am for the people, so I will throw you under the bus in a second if I think that we're not being right by the ladies.
I mean, I really need to know which products I need to avoid. Because my foundation, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I would definitely say anything that has parabens in it.
How do you look for that?
I mean, parabens, it'll list it right on the ingredients list, like hairsprays, dry shampoo.
They out themselves?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be surprised. You could probably Google other names for parabens, but for me personally, I see it listed right on the ingredients list usually. But hairsprays, lotions, makeup, lipstick, sunscreens, those are all really prominent sources of estrogen disrupting hormone disruptor products and ingredients.
Is there any way to find none?
Yeah, you know what? Okay, I want to give a shout out to one of my girlfriends. Her name is Illy. She has a website called Live Health Illy. And she has a low tox product shop of pretty much every product that you could find in a CVS, but the non-toxic version of it. She's based out of Florida, and she's pretty much done the due diligence on behalf so that women can come to a safe place online and search for good makeup and cosmetics and all the good stuff that we need on a regular basis without worrying about having to check the ingredients list. Like, I personally have watched her boot some brands that changed their formula and no longer met her standards, and she's really strong on that. So I would recommend livehealthily.com.
All right, shout out to Illy.
Yes.
I'll get my foundation from Illy.
Yes, there you go.
She'll be the best. I don't know what I'm saying. All right. What would you say are some of the most common symptoms of chronic inflammation and hormone imbalance? I know we kind of talked about progesterone.
Yeah, progesterone, estrogen. I mean, they all have their own signals. I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different symptoms that oftentimes can be from the same root causes. But I would say the most prominent chronic inflammation and hormone imbalance symptoms that I see in my practice is fatigue. Most women come to me because they're so tired of being tired. They have upped their caffeine intake. They're at 6 cups a day at this point, and they're like, listen.
That's not normal.
No, it's not. We should not be doing that.
No, okay. Oh. I don't know. Sorry, continue.
You're fine. So, let me see here. So, I would say fatigue, constantly being in a state of feeling overwhelmed, and hormone imbalances that impact our cycle and our experience with our cycle. A lot of women skip periods or having issues with fertility, or are having very painful periods. Those are pretty normalized, but not normal. Common, not normal.
Okay.
Acne, headaches, weight gain around the midsection, low libido, anxiety, depression, low mood. Those are all your body talking to you, trying to let you know that a need is not being met, or there is being an excess of exposure to something that's causing dysfunction.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What would you say is like the step one besides noticing and like seeking help? Would you recommend?
So everybody really is in usually such unique positions, but I will say that the area of most women's life that I usually end up starting with first is sleep.
Okay.
If your sleep is off, everything else is going to be off. Sleep is your master detoxification opportunity. It is your master hormone balancing opportunity. It truly restores and regulates everything.
Yeah.
Your brain has to sleep. It needs enough sleep, and it also needs enough quality, deep restorative sleep. And what I see most often is we're consuming in excess of caffeine, and it's disrupting our sleep pattern, and then it just turns into this cycle of caffeine, because I'm not getting enough sleep, but I'm not getting enough sleep because I'm too caffeinated. It's interrupting my sleep cycles. So I would say if there's anywhere that I would start if you want to move the needle the most is with your sleep. Ideally, women need somewhere between 7 to 9 hours of sleep at night, ideally around 2 hours of REM sleep, a minimum of 90 minutes of deep sleep, and getting really clear on what we need to be doing in the evening to set ourselves up to be able to drop into sleep. Because if we're going straight from work, TV, drama, news, all of that, thinking that we're just going to then immediately drop into a deep sleep, it's just not how our bodies were designed. So creating a down-regulating evening routine will probably be really supportive to getting that sleep.
So you like settle down, light some candles,
Yeah,
make
make it a ritual. Yeah.
And all the stuff. So I actually had a patient come in today, and she's doing all of the things that you would recommend on a global basis to get sleep, but she's not sleeping. So like she's exercising, she's regulating her caffeine intake, she's doing sleep etiquette and everything like that. Is there anything on a functional nutrition basis that you would recommend for maybe her to try to get better sleep, or maybe even get to sleep?
Yeah. 60% of women are magnesium deficient.
Okay.
And magnesium is profound in providing the body the raw materials that it needs to activate production of serotonin, which converts into melatonin. And so I usually am recommending my clients that are challenged with sleep to discontinue eating 3 hours before sleep, discontinue hydrating 2 hours before sleep, and
I've never heard that one. Any reason why?
Usually because it wakes people up in the middle of the night to have to use the restroom, and I want the least amount of disruptions to your sleep as possible. And so I would say magnesium supplementation, those 2 steps I just mentioned, no devices at least an hour to 2 hours before. If you are on a device, I would recommend to wear blue light blocking glasses like I have on right now. It really helps to protect your light's impact to your hormonal cycles that impact your circadian rhythm.
So to hop on the magnesium, I know personally sometimes for sleep people recommend a specific type, like magnesium glycinate, right?
Yeah. Glycinate and citrate are usually the 2 that I lean into. And also another great blood sugar stabilizing supplement that I also sometimes use to support deep sleep is inositol. It's also been known to help drop down the nervous system into a down-regulated state.
Where do you access this?
So I have supplement recommendation links on my Instagram, but I would just really recommend that if you are sourcing any form of supplement, that it is a functional medicine formulated and third-party clinically researched and tested, because there's a lot of products out there that don't have the potency that would need to actually be effective, and or they're not third-party tested, and sometimes can be full of fillers and poor quality ingredients that really don't do what they say they will do. So,
is there any that I know we shouted out to Live Healthily.
Yeah.
Is there any other ones that you would recommend that are third-party tested?
Yes. Pure Encapsulations, love that brand. Thorne, Integrative integrative. I'm blanking on the second word to it, but I would maybe just type in integrative, because integrative is usually pretty equivalent to functional. Equilife is my #1 preferred brand. That's where I source all of my supplements from and my client recommendations for. Those would be my primaries.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm going to ask this question only because I know it's setting me up for a no, but
Okay.
is there any simple fix to balancing hormones?
Huh.
Oh, there's maybe?
You know,
Okay.
Gives hope.
I know,
sometimes
right?
sometimes it can be simple.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be simple, like dependent upon what kind of scenario of symptoms that my clients come to me with. If it is a gut-related root cause issue, it usually takes about 6 months to address.
Is that just kind of like managing expectations when you're like getting into this? It's like, okay, it's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, it will take a little bit. And to kind of level set on that, I think we're all kind of guilty of really wanting relief immediately. And what I had to level set with myself on is we've been ingesting food this way and living this way for decades. And in order to reverse some of that damage and really allow your body to heal, it does take a few rounds of cellular regeneration to be able to really feel differently in the body. And something I always love to share is we literally cellularly regenerate 25% of our cells every 3 months. So 6 months out from today, if you were to start over the next 6 months really making some shifts in what you're putting into your body, because what you're putting into your body is what your cells operate off of, and upgrading that intake and getting the sleep, getting the sunshine, hydrating well, cellularly you will be a different human being 50% in 6 months. In a year, cellularly, we can be a completely different human being in a matter of 12 months.
All right.
So
you are what you eat. Wait, no. What's the? You are what you eat. Eats.
You are what you eat. Eats. Yeah, absolutely. And that is oftentimes why it takes time accumulation, time compounding over your body having the opportunity to reactivate the cells and regenerate over the course of somewhat of an extended period of time. But you asked, is there any simplicity? I would say about 80 to 90% of my clients that come to me, the majority of their root causes reside in the gut. But if it is primarily an immune system or say maybe mold toxicity of some sort, and it's like an environmental thing rather than gut dysbiosis like yeast overgrowth or bacterial overgrowth or something like that, you can usually get those toxicities out of your system in a shorter period of time and really revive a lot of the systems that have been taxed due to some of those things. So
I know.
Clearly, this is not simple.
It's like, all right.
I keep on trying to get
It's
to a
simple,
simple answer.
but we're going to talk about all of these things. I know that you,
It can be simple, though. If you don't have severe gut issues, hormones can be regulated by sleep and nutrition and environment and nervous system regulation in the matter of 3 months is what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
And creating health can be simple.
Hopefully.
It can be simple. I personally don't believe that you can completely rebalance the gut just by diet. At this point, a lot of my clients' guts are far beyond just being able to revitalize based upon some nutritional adjustments. You usually need to incorporate some herbal medicines and naturopathic medicines to be able to flush out the bad bacteria and bring in the good bacteria. But it's possible.
Okay.
It's just rare.
You like the statement kind of indicated there may be a point of no return.
don't usually believe that. I personally have never seen a client to date where there was not any ability to drastically reverse
perfect
damage. Yeah.
So hope.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of hope. Of course I couldn't promise anything. I couldn't guarantee anything, but I'm sure it's possible. But I have never seen anybody that I've worked with that has not been able to really feel and see differences.
Perfect. I'm going to go from simple to complex, at least something that I've been personally curious about.
Yeah.
All the time, in my lack of knowledge, people come to me and they say the different forms of sugar are different. Of course, there's like sucrose, fructose, dextrose, all of those, and it depends where you get your sugar sources that depend, or does your body just be like, this is sugar?
Yeah, well, we've created so many different variations of substances that taste sweet but are not even actually sugar. That is what will really wreak havoc on your system and your hormones, which is artificial sweeteners. It acts somewhat of like a sterilizer for the gut. Artificial sweeteners like Splenda and some of the most
ones that
common.
taste good.
Yeah, well, the ones that are.
I'm just kidding, kind of.
Artificial sweeteners are on average 600% sweeter than real sugar. So.
And my lizard brain just loves them, right?
Yes, exactly. And
You should keep just regular sugar instead, right?
yeah, so the only forms of sugar that I personally use are organic, real maple syrup or honey, because they actually have medicinal properties to them. They actually have minerals in them, and they actually have calories that match the what our body is expecting from ingesting something sweet, and so it doesn't dysregulate your hunger hormones like artificial sweeteners do. Because we have hunger hormone, we have lots of different hormones. Oftentimes when we think about like hormone imbalances, we're always just thinking of the female hormone imbalances of estrogen and such, but we have two hunger hormones called leptin and ghrelin. Yes. And ghrelin is the hunger hormone that helps us to express that we are hungry. We need resources. Leptin is your satiety hormone. Look at you. You know a little something. And artificial sweeteners dysregulate our hunger hormones because we're ingesting something sweet and our body expects to receive a pretty rich caloric intake from that. And then when we don't actually get the caloric intake that matches the hormonal response to sweet exposure, it causes sugar cravings later. And so I would say monk fruit is the only form of, it's not technically artificial, it is natural, but it is sweet with 0 calories. Monk fruit I would endorse, and truly just local organic honey maple syrup. In no world will I ever recommend a Splenda or an artificial sweetener. But sugar is sugar is sugar.
Okay.
And you can, regardless of honey maple syrup, monk fruit, you can still overdo it and it can still be inflammatory.
Okay.
But yes, there are less inflammatory sources of sugar than others.
Okay. Is there a tipping point for how much sugar? Do you usually have like a recommended dosage, or do you kind of just be like, hey, let's minimize as much as possible?
Yeah. So I personally like to keep my just added sugar. I mean, added sugar is any form of granulated sugar that is added into something, which is completely unnecessary according to the body. The body does not need sugar to survive.
All right. You're the functional nutritionist.
The body does not need sugar to survive, which is why we have this other metabolic mode where we can drop into ketosis and leverage fat burning for energy. I don't, especially not for women, endorse a ketogenic diet for a long period of time causes a lot of stress on the body.
Is there any reason? Or let's specifically for women.
Yeah. Well, ketosis is stressful on the body.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned a couple times that the female body is chronically scanning our environment and our resources to determine if we are safe and well resourced. And if it does not feel safe, if it does not feel well resourced, it will suppress our systems and our organs that it does not deem vital to survival, like our reproductive system, our immune system.
Okay.
And it will shift its resource allocation more into systems that do support survival, which is our cardiovascular, which is our muscles. It's essentially flipping between fight or flight and rest and digest mode. And when you're chronically stuck in that ketosis, we're deliberately restricting energy resources from the body. And if you are pursuing pregnancy, or if you are going into menopause, or if you want to really protect a regular hormonal cycle, staying in that elongated state of stress and ketosis can usually cause more dysregulation than it can benefit.
And from my minimal understanding of like ketones and glucose, and like, I know that some people report when they are in ketosis, they feel a little bit more invigorated. Is that more the fight or flight? But also, from my understanding of the brain, is that glucose is the number one source and ketones are a secondary source.
Correct.
And so if you're in ketosis, you're almost working off of the reserves rather than the primary source of energy.
You really... You tricked us. You know more than you think you do. Or you're tricking us. No, you're exactly right. Ketosis, the body prefers energy via glucose, sources from carbohydrates. But the body can function off of ketones, but for a prolonged period of time, for women, usually if they can even get into ketosis without experiencing hypoglycemia, sometimes for women they will experience the positive feelings and then they will hit a wall after about 4 to 6 weeks.
What runs out around 4 to 6 weeks? Is that just the glucose stores, or?
Well, usually they'll start experiencing disruptions in their cycle. Low mood, low energy, depression, things. Like the positives start to kind of flip more to the negative because the body is done with operating off of its reserves.
You said that it was harder for women to get into ketosis. Is that like from estrogen balance? What is that?
Harder to get into ketosis.
And if this is...
No, you're good.
Cool.
Yeah, are you guys interested in this?
All right, let's go.
Yeah, okay, cool. So it's not harder for women to get into ketosis, but we do thrive when we are eating a balanced diet. And so especially women that experience like hunger, if you experience being hangry, that means that your blood sugar is getting low.
I've been a victim of hunger.
It's a real thing.
Yeah, that means your body secreting stress hormones, making you feel uncomfortable, making you irritable. No, absolutely not. Yeah, and so that's what I'm saying. I mean, sometimes women will pursue it and be so uncomfortable, so irritable, so dysfunctional and disrupted that they don't pursue the diet. And some women don't experience severe disruptive hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is when your blood sugar gets low. Hyper is when it spikes high. So, it just is whether or not they're willing to actually really pursue it despite the severe discomforts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so hanger may be like a signal flare for blood glucose regulation, right?
Correct.
There's other like signal flares that people commonly experience, and it usually manifests in like skin, right?
Yeah.
Like if people are experiencing skin disruptions, where would you begin to like start to diagnose or give yourself like an inkling that it may be something with your nutrition?
Yeah, so I probably should have made this statement at the beginning. I am not a medical doctor, so I do not treat, diagnose, or...
My fault, I used the word.
I have to be careful of it. So I am not a medical doctor, so none of the advice that I've given during this talk is medical advice. I do practice natural health, and my focus is restoring deficiencies, releasing toxicities, and helping you understand how to create health and homeostasis in the body. But acne is usually a lot simpler than what a lot of people. Yeah, it's usually diet related, and it's usually eggs or gluten. Most times, dairy and eggs are usually what causes acne, and chronic stress. Those are usually the things that I address with my clients, and they're usually pretty upset when we remove the dairy and their acne goes away, and then they realize that they have to stop consuming the dairy. So yeah, that's what I would say.
At first they fight you, and then the acne goes away, and they're like, I will take this sacrifice.
Yes, I literally had a client last year, and my first call with her, no, it wasn't first call, it was earlier on in our time working together. She said, Leslie, I will never stop eating dairy. And I said, okay, all right. A week into, I said, just give me 1 week. Just give me 1 week without dairy, and let's just see what happens. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah. And then finally.
And she actually was having a pretty severe inflammatory response to dairy because her joint pain went away, her acne went away, her brain fog went away. Oh yeah, absolutely. Anything that causes inflammation.
Yeah, that's a great segue into like the systemic effects of almost bad diet.
Yeah. Well, anything that causes disruption here is going to cause disruption here. And so brain fog, I can't believe I haven't mentioned that yet, because that is also such a huge prominent symptom that my clients experience. And oftentimes it can be due to poor liver metabolism, where the liver is kind of clogged up from having too much exposure to medications, to the xenoestrogens that I mentioned in cosmetics and products.
Tequila.
Yes, tequila. Yes, all the things.
See, I would have said whiskey, but I know. I know my audience.
Read the room. Yeah, so brain fog is I mean, there's such a profound connection between the gut and the brain, and that we could do a whole talk literally just on that. But brain fog is really disruptive, and when you are consuming things that are activating the immune system, when it's chronically activated, it is eating up our energy. Like, it is very expensive for the immune system to chronically be on high. And our brain is actually the organ that demands the most amount of energy resources. So if we're using up most of our energy resources and raw materials to function this overactivated immune system, it's going to tax the adrenals, it's going to tax our brain, it's going to tax our endocrine hormonal system to be able to have the resources to function well there too. So, I mean, there's a lot of crossover that can cause brain fog, but I would say chronically consuming foods that you're not biocompatible with will definitely disrupt your mental clarity.
And I know there's been some studies that link leaky brain to diminishment of the blood-brain barrier, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that can contribute to brain fog as well.
Yeah, absolutely. The gut-brain connection was really not supported much until, I would say in traditional medicine, there is this understanding that there is a blood-brain barrier that protects the brain from literally everything. But what we now know, especially with a lot of the now present nutritional scientific research, is that there are things that are pushing through that blood-brain barrier, especially like microplastics we're starting to notice. The brain is not up here in this protected space and not impacted by what's going on down here. So, did you ask me a specific question?
No,
or?
I know, that's perfect.
Okay.
No.
That's what I would have to say about that.
So like, if people are experiencing maybe some brain fog,
Yes.
or maybe like things that could contribute to the blood-brain barrier, all that stuff.
How would you find it? Yeah.
I don't know.
Lab testing is, I mean, you can't beat it. If you want the most clarity with the least amount of effort and in the fastest time frame, lab work, functional lab testing.
And I know, so in my experience, like lab testing can be kind of a large ordeal. Is there any like specifics that you go after?
Yeah, food sensitivities, I want to know.
Okay.
I want to know. And to be clear, food sensitivities are unique from food allergies. Most people know if you're allergic to something because when you're allergic to something, you have a dramatic and immediate response. But when you have a sensitivity to it, it is more so feeding towards the low-grade chronic inflammation, where if you consume something that is not biocompatible with you and it's causing inflammation, you'll feel those inflammatory related symptoms for usually about 48 to 72 hours. Not as abruptly as you would an allergy, but you will feel them. So for example, when I eat gluten, I usually experience brain fog, low mood, low energy, things of that source for about 48 hours after I consume it. And I know that that is a food sensitivity to me. So oftentimes I have clients that go to their doctor and they get their food allergies tested and they're like, well, I don't have any sensitivities to gluten. And then we test their sensitivity and sometimes it's extremely severe.
Yeah.
Because there's an IgA immune cell that is correlated to your allergies, and then there's an IgE immune cell that is deployed by the immune system that causes that chronic inflammation.
And not to get, but I think from what I know, there's like an effective period to where these cells start to interact with our cells, and it may take some time for the symptoms to manifest. So it may become complicated.
Up to 48 to 72 hours.
And so like it's almost becomes nebulous because you're like, oh, what did I eat yesterday? When it's not, it could be.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm trying to explain. The difference is that is why we're oftentimes in denial or just truly innocently out of touch with what is actually causing our inflammation, because a lot of the food-related inflammatory responses happen about 48 to 72 hours after you consume. So that's why it's really important. So if somebody were to come to me with brain fog, food sensitivities I want to test.
Okay.
The gut. I want to see what's going on in the gut. If you have parasites, H. pylori, if you have excess bacterial overgrowth or yeast overgrowth, because the gut is what provides the resources to the endocrine system, to the immune system, to the cardiovascular system. And if the gut is out of balance, if it is not able to synthesize and metabolize what we're consuming, the rest of the body is going to feel the pain from that. So I would definitely want to test the gut. And then also the adrenals.
Okay.
The adrenals heavily impact the thyroid. The thyroid heavily impacts your hormones.
I know anytime somebody says thyroid, my brain just shuts down. So, like, trust me. So, where do you begin with all of that?
Yeah. Well, so this is why you hire a practitioner, because going into a library of lab tests, not really knowing, first of all, there are resources where if you wanted to go do functional lab tests, you can do it from home, you can do it yourself. You can even get them, interpreted for you. But matching the lab test to what you specifically need is expertise. You need to tap into expertise for that if you don't want to waste any time. B is you need to be able to interpret the results to really understand what it means, because if you look at a gut health test and try to pronounce some of the words that are on that test, I mean, you need to be able to understand it. There is a story that you can see about your current health, state of health, the history of your health when you're looking at these lab tests. And then you need to be able to act on it. So partnering with a practitioner to steer you in the right direction of, this is the lab test that you need. This is what the story that the lab is telling you. This is what we need to do about it.
Yeah,
that is what I would recommend.
And like, not to plug like you
Yeah.
and your expertise, but like this is where
That
your
is what I
services
do.
become crucial, because like you can like venture into the dark and like eventually figure something out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But do you want to
can.
take the time, all that stuff, when really you can just have like a guide who's like, follow me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So okay.
Yeah,
so
you can waste a lot of money and a lot of time testing for things that really aren't the most important thing for you to be testing.
And that
or
may make it harder to distinguish, or overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to my mother-in-law what I do, and she's the sweetest thing ever. She's so curious and she wants to know. And I recently was having a conversation with her about it. She's like, Leslie, that sounds so complicated. And I was like, this is why I don't explain any of this to my clients as we're just starting to work together, because you don't have to worry about all of the things when you have a partner in your health journey. That can guide you and help you understand, this is what you do need to take away from this. All of this other stuff, not relevant. Don't make it take up your headspace. But I really can't recommend enough. Even if it's not with me, if you wanted to pursue getting to the root cause, getting some functional lab tests done, and work with somebody. Have a partner that's going to guide you and really bring you through the process. And what I was about to plug is, functional lab testing is significantly different than conventional lab testing. It is a very expansive realm that hasn't been very welcomed into the traditional medical system quite yet.
And like, per my prompts here, you started an amazing program to help women understand their gut and find personalized solutions.
Yeah.
How would you describe the Radiant Health Collective?
Yeah. Okay. So the Radiant Health Collective is my online membership community platform, and Dr. Syra, who is not here tonight, unfortunately, but she's actually a featured special guest masterclass host in the community. And so the Radiant Health Collective is a safe space for women that I've founded with the intent to provide women guidance on where to get started, how to be surrounded by other women that are on the same journey and are pursuing similar goals, have felt similar struggles, with resources and guidance along with it. So that is the Radiant Health Collective, and it is one of my services of my private practice. Yes.
How do people access?
How do people access? So it's linked up right on my Instagram. My Instagram is nice and simple. It's Leslie Jackson Wellness. So if you go to my website, that's linked in my Instagram, you can see all of the different ways to work with me. You can read more about the collective. You can read my client testimonials, and really start to understand what I'm building.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't even know. I'm going to go to the next prompt. Okay. Oh, you already answered this one. How long does it usually take? You said around 6 months, at least for the basic level of things, right?
You should ask me that question.
Okay. How long does it usually take to start feeling changes when someone does begin implementing tools to balance your hormones?
Yeah. So literally within a week.
No way.
Literally within a week, most of my clients start to notice pretty significant improvements. There's a lot of blind spots oftentimes that are really simple to fix.
Okay.
There's a lot of solutions.
Give me an example of a blind spot.
Sleep.
Okay.
Sleep is huge. Walking. If we are not getting a minimum of 10,000 steps a day, we are living a sedentary lifestyle. And our bodies were designed to move. When we don't move our body, it gets dysregulated. It dysfunctions.
And if you want to move better, come see August.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know that some people, I personally recommend walking after dinner. Is that something that you support?
Real. Walking after meals makes a profound difference as to how well your body balances your glucose after you consume a meal. Especially after you consume a carbohydrate-rich meal. If you will just simply go for a 10-minute walk afterwards, I believe it's like a 35 to 40% decrease in glucose spike if you just go for a walk after you consume anything carbohydrate potent. But most of the time women are so concerned with caring and being there for everyone else. Mm-hmm. And once they finally make an investment into a partner that helps them to remember themselves and what their needs are, they're like, oh yeah, that's so simple. I can do that.
I should start doing these things.
Yeah, I should start doing these things. Yeah, and sometimes I'm guiding my clients through offloading some things, because sometimes there is no supplement, magic, anything that I can do to make your nervous system more regulated if you simply have way too much on your plate. Sometimes that is the solve, is doing less. Sometimes the solve is doing a little bit more. But regulating the sleep, getting the 10,000 steps, and applying those practices into your day, so it's not just another thing we're adding to the list because we only have so much time in the day. Hydrating and not skipping meals. Like once you start doing those things, like you can experience an immediate improvement in how you feel in your body.
Okay. No hunger.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No
the
victims
sugar
of
cravings, headaches, fatigue, bloating. Those are the 3 to 4 primary symptoms that I usually see a significant improvement in within weeks.
Okay.
Of just making a few adjustments. So some resolutions can happen over the course of 6 months, sometimes 3 months, and some of them it's immediate. I mean, if weight gain is something that they're looking to resolve for, I mean, you can experience results within a week or two of that as well. So it just depends on what metrics we're looking to see progress in.
Okay, like objectives. Like,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
What are a few things that people can start implementing immediately to naturally begin balancing their hormones?
Yeah, I would say stop eating dessert for breakfast, savory breakfast, get moving. I mean, I mean it when I say 10,000 steps a day to me is more important than getting in resistance training. Because if you are chronically sedentary, you're not getting enough just baseline activity in the body, you're going to experience chronic inflammation symptoms. I prioritize the 10,000 steps over everything else. And then, of course, resistance training, it's longevity, it's a quality of life. We need it. Our muscles help to regulate our hormones, our blood sugar, all the things, our energy. So resistance training, I primarily recommend at least 3 times a week. Getting in some cardiovascular training is also important, 1 to 2 times a week. Hydrating with about half your body weight in ounces per day. Throw some electrolytes in there. It'll help to really absorb the minerals and nutrients. And focusing on what you need the most of and letting go of the focus of chronically thinking about the things that you need less of, like less sugar, less gluten or dairy, or whatever it is that for you feel like you need less of. Focus more on the foods that you need the most of, which is high quality proteins and a ton of vegetables, fruits and vegetables and protein. If you did just those few things, depending upon where you stand today, you may feel like a brand new woman just in the matter of a week or 2. That's where I would start.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, those seem like great ways.
Feasible, right?
Yeah, feasible.
Yeah.
I like feasible.
Yes.
Is it okay if I start opening it up to questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Please.
Do y'all have any questions? Come on.
Food sensitivities be also related to like leaky gut?
Oh my gosh. What a great question.
So the question was, could food sensitivities be related to leaky gut? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay, so when I run a food sensitivity test, and if I see that you have dramatic sensitivities to just about everything, or 75 to 80% of what's on that list, which I'm testing for over 190 different foods, leaky gut. That's what it says to me, because if you have an overactivated immune system due to the immune system being exposed to just about anything that flows through your intestinal tract because of leaky gut, your IgE immune cells are going to be rampant in the system. And also, if I ran a food sensitivity test and I saw that you had 0 sensitivities, what that tells me is that your immune system has shut down and that it is not populating.
Either one is good.
It gave up.
Your immune system can give up. Like the Addison's disease is your immune system literally giving up. I mean, I have a client right now that her immune system has shut down. And so I don't ideally like to see too many sensitivities or none at all, because that means pretty severe conditions. I mean, I don't want to say I don't like to see it. It is relieving to identify what the root cause of those things are, and they're very much so addressable and resolvable. But to answer your question, food sensitivities very much so connected to leaky gut, because once you do heal and seal the gut and rebalance the microbiome, you will see a difference in your food sensitivities because your immune system's not chronically overactivated.
That's cool.
So I was gonna ask, does it like once you fix that, you can have certain foods again?
100%. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, because I'm talking about sensitivities, not allergies.
Yeah,
So,
like
yes, I know you get that totally. I just want to clarify. Allergies usually aren't reversible. Sensitivities. This is my belief that food sensitivities, you can tone them down, and if you do heal and seal the gut, balance the microbiome, you can become less reactive to inflammatory foods than you once were when you had a leaky gut, when you had an overactivated immune system. So
what creates a food sensitivity then? Is it something that I assume comes over time?
yeah, I don't have an answer to that. I don't know why we have food sensitivities. I have a theory. My theory is that we have not always flown our bodies all around the world. We have not always flown and transported food all around the world. And I believe that our systems, like for example, in Japan, Japanese people have a strain of bacteria in their gut that helps them to be able to actually metabolize a certain type of seaweed, and I'm blanking on the name of the seaweed, that no other culture in the world has that same strain. I believe that our bodies adapted to what we had in our local vicinity for hundreds of thousands of years, and now we're exposing our systems to food from all over the place, and also we are not respecting the original versions of our food as we used to. So I think that genetically modifying foods is creating food sensitivities. I think we weren't always used to digesting a lot of the foods that we ingest today. So those are my theories. I don't have anything to back that up, but that's how I'm making sense of it. Yeah, so, yeah, any other questions?
I have one, like, kind of weird, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, does it affect your hair? Like,
Oh my gosh, yes. So another one of,
Does it affect your head?
yeah.
so, like, I don't want to bald. You know, like, I don't want to, like, my hair's thinning or, like, things like that as you get older. But is it also, I'm guessing, the food, or is it just because you're older?
Yeah, so I think it varies.
Sorry. You know,
What is going on over there?
y'all keep answering questions. I'll be right back. Hey.
So hair loss can be due to chronic cortisol overproduction, chronic stress. That can be a stress response. Was that your robot vacuum?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It's my minion.
I thought it was upstairs or something.
I thought so too.
Yeah. Okay, so hair loss. Hormonal imbalances, which cortisol imbalance is a hormone imbalance. I see that having a profound impact on hair loss. And I have had clients that have seen a significant reduction in hair loss once we removed things that were causing inflammation internally, and also leveraging practices to downregulate the nervous system. Yeah, so that would be my primary focuses for hair loss. Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
I mean, that's like weird, but I don't.
Do you have an opinion on the blood type diet? I feel like that was a thing in the 90s, or a book came out in the 90s.
Yeah.
Big on it, you know? But
Yeah.
like to your point with, you know, based on where your genetics originate.
Yeah.
Do you have any insight? Like, do you think that was just like a fad? I don't know. I've kind of like tried to experiment with it, and
Yeah.
it seems to check out.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I mean? Like, depending
I
on
do know what you
condition
mean.
is.
I will say it's not something that I use in my practice. It's not something that I've had to incorporate to get my clients' results. But I think that there is so many different styles of medicine. I mean, there's Mayan medicine, there's Chinese medicine, there's Korean medicine, American medicine. There's so many different ways. I believe that there's so many different ways to heal the body. I really do. I certainly don't know all of them, but I do believe that that's possible. I mean, I do believe in biocompatibility in what we consume with our genetics and with our blood type. I just personally haven't studied it immensely, but I'm curious about it too. Probably one day I would like to lean into it more. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for asking though. For sure. Anybody else? We all set?
We all
Good?
Okay, well, thank you all for coming. Please give her a round of applause.
Thank you guys.
Yes, thanks to all of our
Thank
viewers.
you.
Yeah, it has been great. Thank you so much for all of that.
Yeah, this is fun.
One last question would be
Yeah.
just like if you had one thing for people to take away.
Oh, yeah. I would say don't settle. If you don't feel energized in the morning, if you don't feel excited about pursuing your purpose in life every day, if you don't feel confident and really genuinely good in your body, you deserve to. I really deeply believe that you deserve to, and I really just hope that you don't settle for anything less than you feeling damn good in your body. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one more time. Round of applause. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you all so much for coming. I'd love to talk more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what we'll do is we'll just mingle over there next to the food after we just talked about all of it. So. But yes, please feel free to come up and ask Leslie.
Yeah, I'd love to talk
Don't
with
ask
you all
me
more.
anything.
Yeah, because he knows nothing.
I know nothing. Nothing. This is great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.